What's going on, YouTube? Vinny Cuz, and here's week 3 from me on this YouTube thing. Yeah, that kind of sucks too. Fuck. What's going on, y'all? Okay, first topic of the day will be the new platform introduced by Uber in 4 or 5 markets here in Florida. Not every market in Florida has it. Gainesville, Miami, Tampa, the Keys, and I think there's one other market. Anyway, we now have Uber Premier and Premier SUV. It's a very interesting platform that they introduced. These are the reasons why. Number one, they pay a little bit less than Lux, but they make up for it by allowing Premier to surge when X surges. If you're a Lux driver and an X driver, you know that normally only X and XL will surge together and Lux would have its own separate surge unless you opened up your X platform and just happened to catch a Lux ride with the X surge. You would get the flat surge, but it would never multiply. You actually had to have a Lux surge to get it to multiply. With Premier, it surges with X. It surges with XL. That's a huge bonus. Now, as you know in other videos, I've been saying, tinfoil hat has been saying, they're changing their platforms to meet today's demand for them. So, if you were a Lux driver or a Lux SUV driver, with Uber, you paid 28%. What we've noticed with the Premier rides is that 28% doesn't hold true anymore. So, they're introducing a little bit cheaper rate, more on par with Lyft Lux, but they're going to allow it to surge with X. Not a bad move. What does that mean for Lux? I've been saying Uber Black is coming. Now, just to be clear, that 28%, so whatever they set the rate per mile at for the rider, the driver is still getting 28% of that. But they're charging the riders more than the rate because they have their upfront pricing. Do you see where I'm going with this? On regular Lux SUV, they haven't really messed with the riders as far as upfront pricing. It's been pretty flat and fair the last 3 years, 3.5 years since I've been here. But now, just like they did with X, just like they're doing with Comfort, they're now going to do that with Premier. Be interesting to see. Another little caveat is, not everybody that's on or qualified right now for Lux or Lux SUV is qualified for Premier. There's a 5-year limit on how old your car can be. And since we don't have a true list to go by, the rest is kind of ambiguous. So if you got the email and you got the message, you got the Premier. Funny thing about that is I know a couple that drive, and he got the message for Premier, but she didn't. Strange. They drive the same cars. Also with Premier, it is adapting some of the comfort rules. So, your rider can request the temperature. Your rider can request the amount of conversation, or in other terms, also known as STFU mode. But now, it's also going to let you know if they have luggage. That's cool if you like doing airport runs. Depending on your market, airport run could be an indication of a very, very good ride. Okay? One of the downsides to Premier, when you're on X, XL, Lux SUV, your rider has 5 minutes to get to the car once you've arrived. With Comfort, it's 10 minutes before you can cancel that ride and still get your cancellation fee. With Premier, that number's gone to 15. Some good, some bad. It is what it is. So there was a report that dropped over the weekend about riders and how much they do and do not tip their Uber drivers. And it brought up a lot of interesting points, right? We all know, if you're an older driver, originally, when Travis Kalanick was at the helm, CEO, tipping was not in the app. It was not offered. They always said, oh, don't worry about it. Your driver's already taken care of. No need to tip. Well, let's revisit that for a second. When Uber first came on the platform, they were a black car service on demand. Riders were paying a very good penny. There was no need to tip. Then, as X came on board, and the rates went down and down and down, drivers needed that extra money. They needed to get tipped. But I want you to think about something. One thing that report didn't hit on, all they talked about was 30% of riders tip their drivers. What I want you to think about is this. Because the fares were reduced so much, that means more common everyday people now could use the platforms. But more common everyday people don't have the extra money to tip. They're taking Uber to get from point A to point B to get to work, to get home from work. And drivers, I hope you take that into account, that not everybody can afford to tip you. So with that respects, I call bullshit on that report. Speaking of Travis Kalanick, Showtime has in the works a mini documentary series or a documentary or I don't know, some kind of show where they're going to take us through the steps of the creation of Uber. Should be an interesting show. I'm really curious as how they're going to portray Travis and all the other rideshare app, gig economy apps, if they bring those into the fold, or if they're going to attack him. Are they going to pull a Michael Jackson on Travis Kalanick? You know how people are, bro. Especially the media. They love to build you up and then knock you down. Should be interesting. Another report. We all know that the news media outlets, other YouTubers, have been announcing every time Uber has laid off more people. They're laying off their own. We've talked about this. It's nothing new. But one YouTuber actually brought something to light. Uber's hiring also. So we kind of talked about that in the last video, that they were hiring certain segments for their newer platforms or their newer products that they're going to offer people through the Uber app, mainly the financial products. But what I didn't know, still don't know, but could see it happening is Uber is not only firing engineers, software techs, management, they're they're hiring new people to take their place. Now, back in 1980, a lot of y'all probably wasn't born yet. 1980, air traffic controllers went on strike. President at the time, Ronald Reagan, his answer was, well, we can't fire you because they're union, and you can't fire a union guy for going on strike, but we can permanently replace you. Fast forward to 2019, 2020. Well, you make too much money, so we got to let you go. But we're going to replace you with people who will do the work for half the money. I'm just saying. It's an age-old tactic that capitalists use. If they can get it done cheaper, they're going to get it done cheaper. Sucks to be you. Now, this particular segment, I'm not real happy about talking about because I don't want to be that guy. But we just had, down here in Fort Lauderdale, we had a Lyft driver who was making a pool run. And he had a firearm in the car. Now, they're still sorting out all the details, so don't quote me on this shit. But I will say this. He had a firearm in the car, had an underage minor in the car, and her boyfriend. I think the girl's like 14, 15. And when he went to pick up, it was a shared ride. When he went to pick up two other people, the gun fell off his lap and it went off. Shot the girl in the foot. Now, that in itself is fucked up. That's just bad, right? And I'm glad the young lady's fine. But let's go through a couple of things here. In the state of Florida, we have the right to carry and conceal, right? You go to class, you get your license, get your training, you do what you got to do. Nowhere in that class does it tell you carry your firearm loaded with your safety off, one in the chamber on your fucking lap. That, mistake number one. Mistake number two, and I'm going to say it, you picked up a minor. Now, if you believe that what you're doing now is based on every decision and every choice and every breath and yada, yada, yada you done 10 minutes ago, 10 days ago, 10 years ago, then you got to believe that if he wouldn't have picked up that minor, wouldn't be in this situation. Even with him being a dumbass for having a loaded firearm on his lap. Y'all do what you want to protect yourselves. Everybody, has their own opinion. But I'm going to tell you what. If you're going to be dumb, you better be tough. The other day, on a Facebook group, there was a gentleman who was showing off his ride and a $10 tip that he got. And that's good, right? But in his comment to his pay statement that he published or printed, posted, you know what I mean. He was like, hey, thank you, driver, for not taking the cops with the open containers. Now, again, like I said, if you're going to be dumb, you better be tough. Just because you're at a police officer's house and they decide they want to take a ride with open alcoholic containers, when you know the law says no open containers in a vehicle. Doesn't say with the driver, the passenger. It says, period. No open containers. And you're taking a regular Lyft ride. So the money don't even, justify it. Don't go online and brag about the other driver was a knucklehead because he made a decision to follow the law. And you're the big man on campus because you got a $10 tip and got him back the other way. So let me ask you a question. God forbid something happens. There's an accident. You're going to be ticketed just because the open containers were in your car. You're going to be in some shit. Is $20 worth being in that shit? I would say no. That guy might say yeah, but then again, I question that guy. My point is this. Don't feel pressured or bullied by any other driver if you refuse service to obey the law. That includes terms of service, right? When it comes to car seats and minors, and open containers when it comes to your vehicle. You're ultimately responsible, dude or lady, because you're driving the car. Let's be smart and say no to bullies. Always say no to bullies. Fuck them bullies. And last but not least, my Miami Dolphins. Dolphins, y'all are testing me. I'm telling you, you're testing me. All right, you're 0-6. You went up to Buffalo and you tried to win the game. Now, I can understand and respect the players want to win and the coaches want to win. But don't fuck it up. Now, I'm happy. We're 0-6. 0-7 on Monday night. Tank for Tua, baby. Peace out.